My name is Eric Merenstein, and I am a student at UC Santa Barbara. And I have recently had the pleasure of meeting Maria Segel of Santa Barbara. I cannot emphasize how much I enjoyed and appreciated spending time with her. She is a small woman with soft, gentle eyes that portray the hidden truth that this woman, born Miriam Polinovich, has knowledge and wisdom one like myself, only 21, can barely fathom. She was born in 1935, Okieniew, Poland, a town near Warsaw. 1935 was a terrible time in history to be Polish, and what's worse is her family was Orthodox Jewish. In 1940, all of the Jews of Okieniew were deported to the Warsaw Ghetto, where her parents, as well as her 2 brothers and 4 sisters, went to live with her uncle, who had a one-room apartment on a street in the ghetto. There was a non-Jewish woman, a Polish woman named Stasia, who would occasionally come into the ghetto and sell food. Maria's family was friendly with her, and in the first of many important and lucky acts that any and all survivors have, managed to get Stasia to smuggle Maria out of the ghetto by having Maria pretend she was Stasia's daughter, and thus beginning Maria's life on the run. Living with Stasia, she was only able to visit her family a total of 3 times, the 3rd time being the last and final time she ever saw any of them. She continued living with Stasia and then Stasia's mother for a period of time, turning to Catholicism until the Germans came back to Okieniew to round up any remaining Jews. She was then forced into running again, now hiding in attics and fields, until she managed to get in contact with a friend from before the war named Wanda Hydrishak, whom she went to via train, completely dressed in disguise to avoid being recognized and denounced as Jewish. She stayed with Wanda until 1945, when the Russian army liberated the town. That was not nearly the end of her traveling. After the liberation, she went to Denmark for a few months, and it was there that she found out that her uncle, miraculously, had survived Auschwitz and was living in Paris, so she then went to join him. She lived with him and his wife for a while, but due to her desire to remain Catholic and her uncle's wife's adamant stance against it, she moved yet again, this time to Quebec City, Canada. It was there that she was able to acquire a teaching degree where she taught 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Then, in 1958, she married and later moved again with her husband, first to New Jersey and then to Arizona, where she turned back to her religion of birth, Judaism, and began working as a social worker, which she did for 23 years in the state of Arizona's Child and Adult Protective Services. She gave birth to 3 children and 6 grandchildren, and those eyes remain as kind as ever. Maria, I would love to ask you, to whom do you feel the most indebted, and what would you like to say to them?
Of course, first Stasia, who smuggled me out of the Warsaw Ghetto, and then Wanda, who took care of me. She was my mother, my protector, and I owe my life to both of these people. And I can only say that because of them that I am alive today. And many, many thanks for everything.
That's good. I want to ask you, why do you think you felt such a strong desire to practice religion at the time, Catholicism, and then why did you go back to Judaism?
When I lost my parents and my brothers and sisters, it was very difficult. And the religion, I found a lot of comfort. Whenever I felt sad and I went to church and I prayed, I felt a lot better. And the reason that I went back to Judaism because I lived with a family in Quebec City, and we went to the high holidays. And when I heard the music, it just penetrated my heart, and I felt, how can I betray my grandparents and my parents, whose religion I was born to? And from then on, I decided that I need to go back to Judaism, and I joined a congregation. I'm not as orthodox as my parents were, but I do feel I have a need to observe Judaism again.
And your kids, you told me?
My children, yes, in fact, on Friday I'm going to my grandson's bar mitzvah in Palo Alto, and I have another bar mitzvah in June, and my oldest daughter married a non-Jewish man, so their children were not bas mitzvah, bar mitzvah, but they are, most of my children are observant Jews, not very religious, but they do observe the tradition.
And I was wondering if you could speak about how you feel your experiences growing up might have given you an inclination to become a social worker, and if they offered you a certain sensitivity that others might not have.
I'm not sure I have asked that question myself. I always have a feeling for working with children and families, and I did that. First, I also was teaching for about 10 years, and I enjoyed being with the children. And I feel that I could give something back that I got. There were wonderful people that took care of me, and as a social worker, I had that opportunity working with teenagers. Sometimes they ran away, and I tried to give them the knowledge that I had, what it means to grow up without a family or caring families that they had, and that gave me pleasure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for interviewing.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's been a pleasure to know you.
Thank you.